please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Hey, DFS fans, we haven't forgotten about you. AJ and I, Paul Bruno, the Statsman, are back with your daily fantasy sports picks with our thoughts ahead of tonight's schedule of games. AJ, there is no action in the North Division for me to focus on tonight, I don't think. But you have plenty of stuff to concern yourself with in the American-based teams that you follow most closely, I believe. So why don't I let you lead off with your DFS picks on the DraftKings platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the, I kind of keyed in on two of the games tonight, and that's Buffalo at New Jersey and Boston at Pittsburgh. I think there's some opportunity here to pick and choose some spots based on circumstance. The first one being New Jersey. They have not been great of late either. Buffalo has obviously had their struggles, but for me, New Jersey is the better half of this matchup to try and utilize in terms of DFS action. And so I'm going to stack a line here from the Devils rather, and it's going to be their second line. I can get Travis Zajac in for just $2,900. He's been rolling with 5 assists recently. Sharon Govich at $3,500 on the wing, and then bringing in on the other side there, Kukkonen as well for $3,400. So you get that full second line. They've been playing really well. And the Sabres have been bleeding goals, and I think will continue to do so. Now, an argument I would not, begrudge you an argument that you could be on the other side of this matchup and stack a line there too. It's two bad teams playing each other, but I think it opens up an opportunity to pick your spot here. The other matchup, as I said, Boston at Pittsburgh, and while our users that are watching on YouTube will notice the Penguin getup that I have on right now, as always. Look, you don't beat Boston that often, especially in a back-to-back. And I'll be honest, the Penguins took it to them last night in that 4-1 win. It was never really that close in my opinion. And so I expect Boston to come back with some fervor tonight, some physicality. And that's why I'm actually going to stack Boston's top line. As you heard,
wow.
I saved a bunch of money here on that using that Devils second line, mostly cheap guys, and that lets me get the full first line here from Boston. So Patrice Bergeron at $8,100, Paul's buddy Brad Marchand at $7,800, and then David Pastrnak at $9,200. So stacking the full line there, and I'll continue with a Boston stack here. I'll use Matt Grzelcyk at $4,600. He offers some pretty good value for his role and doesn't break the bank in the same way that a Charlie McAvoy will. My other blue liner is going to come in the form of Justin Schultz. He's just $3,200. Yes, they're playing an Islanders team that has been very good defensively, so getting points out of him tonight could be a struggle, but he has such a cannon of a shot and really does well from the back end that I think it's a good opportunity. In the nets, I'm going to continue with the Boston stack here and use Daniel Vladar, mostly because he's going to come in ridiculously cheap at $7,300. And like I said, I expect Boston to win tonight based on the fact that they got pretty well handled last night. And that's not something that the quote-unquote perfection line allows to happen a lot of games in a row. And look, if I'm being completely honest, it'll blunt the blow if the Penguins lose, because if they do, I will be winning some money. And if my Pens come on top, what's a little money among friends? So I definitely am going to use Boston tonight. I definitely think it's the way to go in the play. But overall, I'm maybe hedging my bets a little bit here.
Fans of this show will know that he's ditched his fandom for the Penguins the first time in any DFS segment in the history of Puckcast. This is a tape that has to go to the Smithsonian Institute, I believe. It's such a rare piece of film that I think I'm going to keep it for posterity, AJ. And you know what? I think the Penguins are going to shut out Boston tonight just because you picked Boston to win. I think Pens.
I hope they do, Paul. I hope they do.
And interesting note, the only guy that we have in common, I think, in terms of rosters that we put out was Matt Grzelcyk. And I remember you said his price point was something like $4,600 on DraftKings. He's only $3,900 on the FanDuel side of things, and that's one big reason why I plugged him in, because I think he's one of the fantasy relevant offensive blue liners on the Bruins who will show up tonight. He's averaged 10.3 points per game. I pair him with Jonas Brodin of Minnesota, who's had a nice couple of weeks in a row. He's averaging almost 12 points a game. So I'm looking at that average level of production from two guys that are not among the front runners in the defensive rankings to anchor my squad. That gives me a little bit of opportunity to spend money elsewhere. I'll also finish up with my analysis the back end since I started with defense. I'll go to the goalie, and I picked my old pal James Reimer from Carolina. He's got a very tasty matchup against the Detroit Red Wings and is part of a Carolina stack that I feature in the building of my lineup in tonight's action. I've had bad luck with the goalie picks. Despite that, I've wound up in the winner's circle with a high percentage of wins this season. I hope I get it right this week with another lopsided matchup. I think he's going to be very highly owned as well. So I want to be on the winning side of this thing for once. Going forward, I hope. In terms of the forwards that I stack up here, I got the opportunity to put some big dollars on players. So I start with Steven Stamkos against Tampa, a very nice matchup for the fire wagon style of the Bolts, who are against a Dallas team that's really compromised now with their structure of their game and their goaltending in a bit of a state of flux. I think Tampa's going to take advantage of that tonight, and Stamkos will lead the parade. I also feature Gabriel Landeskog of Colorado against the Anaheim team that used to be known for the ability to keep pucks out of the net. Not only are they not able to do that, but they're not scoring much either. So I think it could be a real shootout, and Colorado could be on the right end of that one, and Landeskog in the mix there. The rest of my lineup, I go to the center's position. I got Sebastian Aho for one of the top teams in the league to continue my Carolina stack offensively. $7,300, very cheap for a value this guy brings game in and game out. I partner him with Nicholas Backstrom, who is getting the reps with Alexander Ovechkin. That's a big reason why I plug him in. He's only $6,600, so I get two centers that are way cheaper than they should be, despite the fact they're both first liners on their respective clubs. Then I get the opportunity to put in Martin Netzcash from Carolina, who's had a very nice season, parlaying his efforts into a first-line role. Only $4,500 they're playing with Aho. I'll take that all day long. That's a real good, sneaky good value for me. And then I go back to Tampa for Alex Killorn, who's playing top 6 minutes, and another very underrated player in the league for the money that he's being on the board today for $5,100, another solid value play. So I went value hunting, AJ, with my lineup, and it afforded me to put some big game hunters in the mix too. So good luck to both of us. Any closing thoughts from you?
No, it's an exciting slate tonight. Without the Canadian games, there's some real good matchups tonight. And as you said, the spots to pick, Carolina against Detroit. I think you could take either side of Buffalo, New Jersey, and Tampa Bay against Dallas. Is a Colorado against Anaheim. There's a bunch of matchups that have the potential to be one-sided here.
Yeah, I'm looking for that to pay off, and I know you are too. But boy, you're going to be wearing this one if the Bruins win this game. I'll be all over you next week, buddy. And that's a fine place to leave it all off. We wish you good luck with your picks. Join us again next Tuesday for the following episode of Puckcast with Statsman and AJ. So long, everybody.
Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.